Welcome to the Forge Coffee Break. This is a very open space for Forge topics. I'm Augusto Gonçalves, part of the Forge Advocates team. Today here I have with me Michael Bill. He's also part of the team. And the idea is to open for general discussions, have some time for a coffee break, just like when you go to the kitchen and discuss random topics. And yeah, I like your mug, Michael. And also to review a few samples and blog posts we have. And yeah, that's very open. And I see I have a few names. I'm just calling you out, so you're not shy, and you can join the conversation. I have here with us today Mark, Tiago, Romeo, and Mani. Anyone else I'm missing? Those are the names I can
Hello,
see.
everyone.
Oh, hi.
Good afternoon.
Oh, I have a few more. I have Alexander, Nilesh, and Viet. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today. So let me see. I mean, as I said, open for general topics. Do you have any questions, any points you'd like to discuss?
Well, Augusto, can you tell us what's been happening in the last, I don't know, the last week or so?
Yeah, well, that's a good point, Michael. I was just thinking that we had this great change coming to well, we are always doing changes on our system to improve performance, to improve how fast we can process the files. We always mention that, right? The blog post is the best place to get the latest information on Forge. So forge.autodesk.com/blog, everything is in there. We also like Twitter as a way to advertise that, but the blog is the way to get the information we need, right? And there is one interesting thing that we've been discussing internally for the last couple weeks. Mike was really involved in that, and it's the update on the Navisworks translation. So if you're using Navisworks, that may affect you. So this is an important topic. Let me open that here. Most people using Navis will have very large files, like a gig, 2 gig files. And it's very important to translate them fast, with accuracy, of course, but we're trying to optimize the way the translation happens on our side. So there are a few changes coming up. We're actually updating the engine. And I think Michael knows it better, right, Michael?
Oh, sure, I know a little bit.
Don't
Yeah, I
be
can talk a
shy,
little bit
you know
about it
it
if you
all.
like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, sure, I can talk a little bit about it. So there is there's an update coming to our Navisworks engine, and that Navisworks engine runs in the Forge services. So whenever you use the model derivative service, hey Marco, hey, whenever you use the
Sorry,
model
I was
derivative
a bit
services,
late. I'm sorry.
that's okay. That's okay. We kind of started. We just grabbed our coffees and we're getting straight into it. It looks like. Um, so whenever you use the model derivative service and you convert a Navisworks file into SVF, that conversion process is going to use one of our conversion engines. And for a Navisworks file, it uses Navisworks engine. Now we're proposing an update. We're updating that Navisworks engine to the latest version of Navisworks that's just been released, or it's in beta, I should say. It's version 2021, update number 1. And I specifically pushed this version because of the IFC improvements that have been included. IFC has obviously been changing. It's a moving target. It changes quite a bit. And they wanted to make sure that the quality of the IFC output was good. So some of the things that are in that IFC converter option, I don't know the full details, but I know that it's specifically some of the features that are being added are specifically around spaces, rooms, and levels. I'm going to keep out of the details of that one, and I'll leave. We're going to announce something. We'll announce something later once this engine does get released about IFC. But the other part that's actually more interesting for the Forge viewer and for the Forge services is we found two key components that significantly improved our conversion performance, and they're all kind of related to um, the material system and the timeliner. And so those two features I'll talk about in a little bit of detail. So let's talk about the first one. So the first one is extracting appearance materials. Now you can see in the screenshot from Augusto there, point number 5. In LMV Viewer, in the Forge Viewer, when you pull up the property panel for this particular ceiling or this asphalt rooftop, you can see under the Materials tab, there's these, looks like there's 6 entries here for ambient red, ambient green, ambient blue, diffuse red, green, blue, etc. And there's some values that just don't really don't mean much. People aren't really going to be using the string values to do anything meaningful. And that same information, ironically, is available through the Forge Viewer APIs. So you could use the Material Manager and get the actual float value rather than a string representation anyway. So in some ways, it's kind of redundant information. Oops, excuse me. So we found that, through the investigation, the plan was obviously to leave it there, but then we found that there was quite a significant performance change. The cost of accessing materials for every single individual element in this sort of recursive fashion was really quite expensive. And we found that if we didn't do that, if we simply that search and did not include those essentially material parameters, the performance for conversion was quite significantly faster. Excuse me. Yeah. And it also reduces just extra strings that are in a property database. The property database size greatly affected. It's more about the performance of conversion. Anyway, that's basically been that's now we're looking at that as a candidate for being the default option of not extracting that information into the property database, and that gives us that performance increase. Now, obviously, these are flags, so you can turn these features on or off, and you do that as you normally would. Let me share my screen real quick on that topic.
And we are talking about a 10x performance improvement, right?
It can be up to 10x. There's two things that affect that 10x performance. So you should see on my screen here, under the post-job conversion. So if you click on that, it takes me to the Forge documentation page, and it's, as you're probably familiar with, post-job mechanism. There's a series of inputs you can specify options in the input and the output. Excuse me. And miscellaneous. So we don't know. We haven't decided where and how we're going to bubble up those exact flags yet. That's coming. But sort of watch this space, and you'll see the updates appear in Forge services sometime. The planning is it's hard to call on a date right now, but they're sort of aiming for maybe end of August, and that may shoot into September. So there's feedback and to get your thoughts on this. Yeah. The second big performance improvement was on not extracting the timeliner profit.
Yeah. Just before we move, Michael, is that something that you guys are using? Navisworks materials? Have anyone used that before? You guys are quite shy today.
Tiago, I can't believe it.
Do you mean by Navisworks materials the color and the shape of the element in the Navisworks view?
Yeah, it's just the color property. So so when you've got like a PBR material, a physically based rendered material, you'll have things like ambient light on the surface, or the amount of diffuse light. They're basically Autodesk protein material properties, and what we call Autodesk Basic Materials. Uh, those same properties which are already in the 3D model are being repeated. The string section of the material database of the properties database. I Who knows why they put them in there? I think it was just to make it look like it was, exciting. I have no idea. Um, but it's essentially kind of a weird set of parameters to be putting in a property database anyway.
I have a
That's it.
question. I've raised my
Yes.
hand. Is it a good time?
Yeah, sure.
All right, thank you very much. This is
It's
Mani.
open, right?
I'm
I'm,
CTO and co-founder of FreeConstruct. I'm also a professor at the University of Illinois. This is a great update, Michael. Thank you very much for doing this with Navisworks. One of the challenges that we have with Navisworks is external IDs. When Navisworks files are federated models from multiple files, let's say Revit and IFC combined, when we convert them through Forge, we get different external IDs every time. Has there been any investigation on how we can keep it consistent? One of the things that we've noticed is that there's this slash separated integers that is being used as part of the format of these IDs. Can you speak to how we can make sure that we can preserve mapping of IDs to one another so we can extract, let's say, dimensional properties off of metadata?
Yeah, that's a great question. The work that's coming with SVF2, as it's called, it hasn't sort of been officially announced. We're in sort of a trial period at the moment. Um, that addresses the tracking of external IDs, and that's specifically for Revit, but it also works with Navisworks. And essentially, the trick to making that work was to take a fingerprint of every object. So we don't just have to track, a building with DWG, 100 DWG references, or 50 NWC files all concatenated into a design. We also have to track the versions of those things. So you might, you've got that building 500 times because there's 500 different versions of it. So we have to fingerprint these a single element. So SVF2, as it's called, or OTG, as you may have heard of it before, has a fingerprinting technique that works across versions, and it obviously works across views, and it can uniquely identify heavily federated Navisworks drawings. So you'll see the DBIDs, as it's called. We call these stable DBIDs, and that means they remain stable regardless of how many times you upload a Navisworks file, or how much the a door changes, and then you upload a new Navisworks file. I've got a question here from Marco.
Sorry, I was muted. Thanks, Michael. That sounds quite interesting for myself, and I just want to say, is there any documentation I could read about this? This is like a recurring problem that some people in my team are having. I just want to put this straight out. I am not very proficient in Forge. I just joined a team who is, and I'm learning. I'm going through the the pain of learning right now. But that's the thing I hear it's discussed the most. So losing database reference and universal IDs. If there's like a documentation I could read and forward to the team, that'd be totally awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, so talking about SVF2, it's as I said, it hasn't been released yet, and we have documentation in the works right now, and obviously we've been using this internally for years now with BIM 360 design collaboration, but we haven't made any of it public, or we've made it limited, what we've discussed. There is a document which I'll share. I think it's fair to share this. It's public, so let's go to Safari. Yeah, so this is some very preliminary documentation, and it's certainly not the final documentation. This is something I wrote quite a while ago, nearly 18 months ago. And so it's very scrappy. It was really for me to explain it to a couple of customers. But the key bit of information here is, what is OTG or what is SVF2, and why is it important? Why is it different from SVF1? But one of the things I was talking about here is this, the stable object IDs across versions of the model, and the I don't think it discusses fingerprinting, but essentially that's what's going on. Part of the fingerprinting process also helps with what we call deduplication. I won't sort of go into the details of it, but effectively, if you have a door and you have 1,000 doors, we only store a single, even if they're slightly different shapes or scales, which doesn't seem right. Let's make it a wall. A wall's easier to understand. We basically just save a cube mesh, and then we have a transform associated with that cube. And for every wall, a wall can be represented as a cube plus a transform. And this, in effect, does a deduplication of the meshes. And so we store much less, and we also get the benefit of doing GPU instance drawing. So we can send a cube mesh to the GPU, and then we use our instance shader to essentially render that cube in different transforms, 1,000,000 times, and we get a nice speed up because we have fewer draw calls and a few other things.
Michael, two quick follow-up questions on this. I think when I was, when you were scrolling down, I noticed that there's some new updates here. One, does the model derivative API support it now? I think the answer is yes. Is that a new change on the very top? You said the update to leg.
Yeah, I've got to be careful about what I'm saying. This is only available to a whitelisted. It's only available to some whitelisted folks right now. We're still.
How can we get on that?
Yeah. So just
sure.
just to be clear here, just to reemphasize what Michael is saying, right? So this new translation is on the works within Autodesk. We are working with that for the last year to improve it, to make sure it works right. We are almost there, just finishing a few final tweaks to make sure it works fine on when you deploy. We are working on a few internal products just to test it, right? We, Autodesk, we are the biggest customer of Forge, right? Because we use Forge to create BIM 360. So what Michael is showing is just some preview of what it could be. And if you want to use it, well, give us at least a few months maybe. That should be live. We're not taking additional customers into the beta right now because we already tested and fine-tuned almost all of it. We just have to finish deploying to our servers, right? We want to make sure it runs without errors, without problems, etc. So it's almost there. And when it's live, as Michael is showing, you just have to switch from SVF to SVF2 on the translation, and the rest should work just the way it is, right? There is no change on the rest of the APIs. It's just an internal pipeline, internal process that will be handled by our system.
Got it. Thank you. I remember having this conversation with Michael at AU last year, so I thought maybe this has actually been released. The second question is, I see that up there you mentioned that BIM 360 does provide that conversion. Can we rely on that? If we have integration with BIM 360 too, so we might be able to fetch it through BIM 360.
Yeah, so ironically, the first actual whitelist, if you feel like, the first real customer of SVF2 is BIM 360. So they have had the highest priority from day one. Mm-hmm. A lot of, I think every file today is, if you be careful. Oh yeah, I suppose I can say it. Yeah, every file is being converted to SVF2 as already. So
there is a flag on the viewer, right? There is a method there to check if it's SVF2.
You can check to see if SVF2 is available. By default, though, the viewer won't use SVF2 in BIM 360 yet. However, you can today. Let me just check if that makes sense. Right. Yeah, actually, you can, if you have your own custom Forge viewer that's pulling BIM 360 assets, you can basically provide these parameters and it will use SVF2 instead as the default.
But even that Fluent option is not
From BIM
working
360.
anymore. Yeah, that Fluent is just was just our development server, right? It's not going to be on Fluent anymore.
Yeah, that will change in time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Last question
At release time.
on this for Navisworks. I think you mentioned something about Timeliner. That was part of the blog. We do get that request from time to time. Some of you may know that we have a 4D BIM capability on top of Forge. And sometimes our customers want to bring in the 4D BIM that's already been created in Navisworks. Does this new procedure that you've explained here provide us with mapping between the external IDs and schedule task IDs?
The data that's coming into LNV today won't change. What you can, in other words, if the data is not there for the timeliner that you need in the schedules today, then we're literally we're not changing that. It's if there is data that's in it that's specifically from schedule information and timeliner, which I don't think there is. We're just putting this provision in there to say, in case there is something that has been that has somehow gotten into the SVF format that has come from a timeliner property, this will automatically default to off, but you will have the option to turn it back on. Now I don't know. Yeah, I don't believe that schedule information is coming across. So our what's the word? Our safety is to simply say we don't believe that there's any properties coming across, but if for some reason there is, someone's managed to get properties from Timeliner to come through SVF and we don't know about it, then we want to at least let them know that if they've managed to find some trick that there's lots of tricks in the format. If they've managed to shoehorn timeline information through LNV that we didn't see or pick up on, we want to make sure that that company is aware that we're now making the default to be off, but they have the option to turn it back on, just in case. But I don't believe that the timeliner information, it's really only relevant for desktop Navisworks.
Yeah, I think to summarize, most of the improvements on the Navisworks will be to remove unused data, and if you can get them back if you want, but we are removing some data that is not being used, and it's just causing loss in performance and on translation time. So that's the to summarize the improvements we're doing, and this blog post is listing all the things we are planning to turn off that you can turn on again if you need to use them.
Thank you.
Yeah, one more feature that was requested, I just sort of bring up before we move on, is the full render and shader style. I've come across a few customers where this has been quite a problem. Essentially, in Navisworks, the shader style, the render styles, is called shaded style. It's here on the left, and a lot of people use this to specifically color disciplines and for tracking of information through color. And so they'll set the transparency and they'll set the color of an object to a discipline, for example, for MEP, some sort of air duct system. They want to specify inlets, outlets, different colors. And there's a standard, I guess, industry standard for doing these colors. I don't know the details of that spec, but it essentially leads to a view that looks a little bit like this in Navisworks. And so it's not necessarily about the visual photorealism. It's more about colors conveying useful information. Now, when you convert that Navisworks file into say BIM 360 or into Forge Viewer, Forge Viewer or Conversion Engine by default doesn't use those shaded style colors. Instead, it uses the full render style, which is supposed to be the photorealistic view, and you end up losing all of those those sort of that color and all that highlight information, and it sort of just turns to the full render mode, which in this case just looks really gray and quite flat looking. So in other words, if this top diagram here is of the Silver Cross Hospital, you can see, it's a Navisworks design with MEP coloring. This is sort of a classic example of where you would use that color information. Now, typically our conversion engine will throw all of that color information away and you just get this flat drawing. And a lot of customers, well, not a lot, but I've had a handful of customers who are saying this is a big problem where we really need to see those colors. We rely on those colors to count things or do quantity takeoffs, etc., or analysis of things. So we added this additional flag now that we're adding an additional flag in Navisworks conversion engine that lets you set the default to choose whatever's saved inside Navisworks. So in other words, the new behavior will say set the Forge Viewer shader style to what's inside the Navisworks file by default. And if you can override this behavior to make it go back to the way it was, which was LNV would always choose the full render mode when it does the conversion. So now the default option will be to set the LMV shader mode to whatever you last saved it as inside Navisworks. So if you save the Navisworks file with shaded view with these colors, then in the Forge Viewer you'll see those same colors. If you have a full rendered, you save the Navisworks file as full render. When you convert it to LMV, to Forge Viewer, you'll see that sort of attempt at photorealism, the Autodesk Protein materials. And that'll be the default behavior. And you'll have the option to switch it back to essentially always using full render, which is what today's behavior is.
Cool, thank you, Michael. Quite interesting. A lot of changes coming to the Navisworks translation. And I think we are, wow, these 30 minutes are running fast, right? I'm just checking again if you have questions, other topics. We've going deep dive on this Navisworks topic because we like it so much. We know a lot of people is using it. And thank you, Manny, for asking questions, and Marco as well. Let me ask the other people, anything, any topics?
There's one thing that I would like to discuss.
Yeah, sure. Do you have your coffee?
Oh no, actually I have water here.
Oh yeah, it's 5 p.m.
That's for Michael.
All right.
Oh, see.
Oh, see. Nice.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but we were starting implementing something here in Revit to publish data to BIM 360, basically sheets and 3D models. And we're working with large sets of data. It's like 400, 500 megs Revit files. And we're investigating working with DWFX instead to accelerate the process and pick which sheets you want to publish and stuff like that. Do you think that's a good option? You guys, more about the file formats
you mean extract the Revit 2D sheets into DWF and then extract them?
Yes. So we are kind of just publishing it to BIM 360, right? Mm-hmm. So what we don't use model derivative directly. We just ask BIM 360 to publish the file there and just get the results there. So yeah, we actually export only the sheets we are interested on, and then just publish it to BIM 360. So that was a very, very good for us in terms of file size. But I know there's some restrictions and some things that DWFX are limited to and stuff like that. So Is there any other file options or things like that, or DWFX would be the best option? So that's kind of my question.
I think DWF will still maintain most of the properties from the original original model, right? My concern on changing the file format from the original to something else, export, right, is that you lose data, right? Revit is if the file is a Revit file, Revit is the best format for Revit files because it contains most of the data. As soon as you go to a different format, you lose some of that data. If you go to DWF or DWFX or DWG or PDF, whatever, right, you are always losing some of the data. So the question is, the data that you're losing, is that okay for you? If that's okay, yeah, perfect. The translation process, that's faster, right? When we translate DWF way faster than we translate RVTs, just because to open that big RVT and extract the 2D sheets, usually extract 2D sheets is the it takes the longest on the translation process. And
right.
when you create DWF, that's faster, just because of the pipeline we have to do DWF is faster than the pipeline we have for RVTs. And if you generate several RVTs instead of just one, again, it's faster because you can run them in parallel. The downside is, okay, you lose data and you lose the connection between them. So when we go with one RVT and multiple 2D sheets, you know that the same element, you know that the DB ID for that element will be the same on all the views, and you maintain the connection between the views. You know that element is visible in that or that sheet because you maintain that connection, right? Michael, anything to add?
Yeah, sort of adding adding to that, the DWF, the deep pipeline is probably our solid pipeline in terms of 2D. So in other words, it's when a DWF file gets to Forge Viewer, for example, it's converted to a file format called F2D, and F2D is almost identical to the byte stream of DWF. It's been around the longest. It's been around long. Our new PDF line, and it's been pretty well battle tested. So all of the worst case scenarios for 2D, all of these cases, like a sewage pipe that's above another sewage, inlet sewage pipe, and there's a certain weird line style that needs to happen, that comes from AutoCAD. Those and they're all spec based line styles. That's what F2D's been, or DWF has been geared around. So, and DWF is primarily from Design Review, Autodesk Design Review, the desktop app. So it's a 2D format we've had for solving this basic problem for a very long time. And then the only thing that's, as Augusto is sort of saying, the only thing, even the Revit files, when you have a 2D sheet from Revit, that's converted into F2D anyway. And those DBIDs are being tracked through a central property database that has, a shared DB. But it's essentially F2D hood. Yeah, that's pretty much my contribution to that topic. I would say if you didn't need the linkage, so if you do have 400 sheets based on a Revit file, and you needed to align and hyperlink a 3D view with the 2D sheet, and you're willing to lose that linkage, then yeah, you could go ahead and you keep using DWFs. But if there was linkage across those 500 files, those 500 sheets based on a single central 3D model, then you'll probably want to stick to using Revit, only because as the version of Revit changes, you can't guarantee that those DBIDs are going to be stable.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we're doing some preliminary tests on that, and it's really painful when you want to export like 400 megs Revit file, and it's it'll keep loading for a long time. So that's why we try to shoot for the WFX, and we're still trying to do some stuff, and we'll see how it goes. I'll give you the news after.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are pretty
Thank you.
cluey. You've got design automation there, so you can cherry pick sheets,
Yeah.
do all sorts of
Yeah.
crazy things. Yeah, I mean, you can do blankets, bulk stuff, but if you've got design automation in your system already, then yeah, you can do some more selective and clever things.
Yep. Definitely.
Thank you, Tiago. I
No
think
worries.
William's
Thank
also
you.
asking how can we select the 3D views to be translated, right? There, you have to use the publish settings inside Revit to select the views you want. So you go to manage publish settings and you create a
Could you
set.
do you have a share screen, Augusto?
I could have, that's a good point, have to find out the publish settings Revit. Select views to publish to the cloud. That's good. Thank you, Michael. And share. Yeah, I think, well, it just, publish. There is a publish command inside Revit. And yeah, manage models. Come on, select. And then publish settings. I'm looking for a window that, yeah.
Yeah, there's a UI for this.
Yeah. See if that will include some images. No, it doesn't. Oh, this video could have it, but take a long time. Anyway, it's that command. You can just select them inside. And I think I'll get into trouble if I try to keep trying to find the window. But yeah, just try to, because I don't have Revit on this Mac machine. I have to start up my Windows machine. But
I
yeah,
have it in here if you guys
yeah.
need it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, you want to share your screen?
Yep. Now, let's see if I can. Ooh, that's. Yep. That's it.
I think I found one too. Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
you got it.
So you go collaborate and then publish settings right there.
That's it. You got
Yeah.
it.
And just to add on that, there's a tricky way to do that on the API as well. Yeah,
Fire away.
there's a undocumented way to do that on the API, so you can do that programmatically as well. We tried a lot of different stuff because we wanted to have more control over what the user were exporting, especially on that feature that we implemented. So we wanted to have that 3D and selected sheets at sometimes, because sometimes you're working in a larger project and you want just a tiny bit of the project being exported, for that particular case scenario. But yeah, so.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you, Thiago.
No worries.
And if you don't select anything, the default 3D view will be exported. That's always exported actually, plus all the other 3D views and all the 2D views you select, right? So the default is the only one that is exported by default, the brackets 3D. Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I've got one more thing to shift before we drop off. Where's it going? Yeah, here we go. Let's pop this in here. Yeah, so week we had the AEC Hackathon, which Jaime on our team was looking after and sort of really helping the Autodesk effort. Anyone who was any of the hacking teams that were working on an Autodesk Forge related product, Jaime was really helping them out. So I did want to call out one of the companies that I worked with that managed to win an award, which I thought was kind of fun. Nice little surprise was these guys. So the BIM2 Devs team won the BIM 360 Project Award. And so yeah, they They worked over they worked over the weekend through the night. They were working pretty hard. Um, and the actual final product looks a little bit like this. Let's see, my internet connection was just dropping out there. I don't have any cool music. It's just the basic video capture here. But essentially, they were doing some simulation around, similar to kind of like Dasher 360, where they would simulate the movement of oxygen and carbon dioxide through a floor plan space. And I guess what was fun about this one is they ended up using a point cloud visualization system, which I thought was kind of fun. So you can see here, let's see, they show, I'll just speed up a little bit here. And essentially they ran the simulation, they had the simulation data of the floor space. And this was really for I guess tracking COVID-19 and how this could be affected in a building. Yeah, that was the basic visualization there. So that's the yep, that was the BIM to Dev team. So just quick shout out to those guys.
Very
That was
nice
pretty much
project. Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Yeah. Talking about hackathon, we have our accelerator end of August, and yeah, it'll be also interesting to see those projects coming up by the end of the week.
And I believe Tiago, you were. Marco's got a question. I was going to say, Tiago, how was you were at the AEC hackathon there for a little bit? It's great to see you guys.
Yeah, it was amazing. We did actually a presentation of how we built a business using Forge as a base system. It was really interesting. A lot of feedback on that one. A lot of people coming at us, talking about Forge and asking questions. And I'm getting started with it. How can I, jumpstart and things like that. It was really fun.
Now,
Cool experience.
were you guys? I know the way they set up the hackathon. There were the hackers, and then there were also these mentors. Now, were you guys getting questions for some of the stuff you're doing to help out, or what was going on there?
Yeah, definitely. I do have a quite active LinkedIn account, and I received a lot of message during those 2 weeks. It was quite fun to point people at documentation. They ask questions about the viewer mainly, which is funny enough is the thing that I know the worst. I'm not versatile in the viewer, but I had quite a lot of questions about BIM 360 APIs and model derivative, things like that. It was
Cool.
really fun.
I'm surprised they didn't question you about how good Australia is. I mean,
I have a lot of questions about that as well.
Yeah.
You and all know that it's a great place to live. Love it here.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's a nice place, I get.
Marco, I forgot. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
That's okay, guys. Don't worry. I'm just trying to absorb everything here. So I'm gonna raise Tiago with sparkling Italian water here. So I know you have the Aussie spring water, but we have sparkling water. So
Actually,
the
I'm
thing
not
is,
Aussie. Sorry to interrupt.
no, I know,
Actually,
but
I'm
you
from
raised the cup that said Aussie water, and like you're talking to an Italian here. There's no competition when it comes to water. Which, by the way, we only export under one brand, which is San Pellegrino. I'm sure you know it. Yeah, it's the most expensive one that we export. This one is less than $1, so, but it's good. So going back to the thing, I applied to the Rapa Nui accelerator, but now I kind of feel bad, and I say this in a funny way, because the reason for which I applied is to learn. But now I am understanding that people here have very well developed businesses, and the accelerator may not be for juniors like me or for beginners like me. I'm just asking if there is any time to discuss this. Should I consider that I have any chance at all? Because I really like my, to plan my vacation around the accelerator. I will have to take the kids to the beach and whatnot. And so I'm just asking very casually here, guys. No harsh feeling or anything. It looks like it's a very high level, whereas I feel I'm a very basic level here. So that's all I wanted to say. If you can give me like a little feedback, I'd really appreciate it.
So the accelerator is really about accelerating your project, right? It doesn't really matter which step or which stage you are. Tiago is a suspicious one because I think you attended 3 or 4 of those already.
No, just one.
I remember seeing you so many times.
He was
Anyway.
a keynote and a speaker at AU. I mean, these guys.
Yeah, so he's working with us for a very long time. And it's really about accelerating your project, right? So what I would really recommend is to get started with some of the trainings we have, some of the tutorials we have, because that will give you some ideas. Try the tutorials, try the samples, and then the accelerator will be, okay, I have this project and I want to accelerate, go to the next level, right? So that's what that week is all about. It's not really a training, although we can help you with questions, but it's really about moving to the next step, moving into a prototype, moving into a POC, or you already have something and you want to test a new idea, explore new possibilities. That's what the event is all about. So try the tutorial, and let me share the link again. This is the tutorial we have, learnforge.autodesk.io. This is the place to get started.
I'm just gonna say something here.
Yes.
I already have contributed code to my team, so I can use the Forge API. It's just that I am super junior. So regarding the basic training, I have code running in production in my team, of course. Don't think anything complicated, right? We're just using that for visualization. We basically do LiDAR scanning, laser scanning. So we overlap some heat maps from the point clouds. Nothing fancy like you guys are doing. Very basic stuff, but still it proved to be quite challenging to overlap things that come apparently from 2 different worlds, right? So the perfect geometry of Forge versus the noisy LiDAR scans, it's proven tough. So what I had in mind was just to learn a little better the API to see if there was a chance to have the final user have a better experience as a user. Right now, it's kind of clunky, so to speak, right? So I can play with the API. I have code running in production. But again, I feel completely junior. I have no problem, saying this. It's quite complex. And the thing I've noticed with the team is that, like, you cannot publish intermediate steps. Like, if you progress a little bit, it's not enough to put out in a new version for the user, right? So you have to take leaps. It doesn't work like incremental steps. And so the idea that I submitted was to just map project a picture onto the geometry. That would really help us. Right now we're using some tricks using Three.js natively, but I kind of pushed against it. And of course, being junior, nobody listened to me because they said it works and it's okay. But I think it makes sense to go away from Three.js and sort of talk to the API to a higher level. And that's what I had in mind. Just do a map projection, like the thing you see in street art, but do it in Forge. So that if I have a picture of a column or a pipe, then I can project onto it so I can actually see the colors, which is very good for site managers. Because right now it's all pastel color, color coded, and these people are not gonna spend time trying to understand your legend color coding. That's what we see. And this is coming from an engineer, because in my past life I was an engineer. So you go there and you try to stay alive in the job site, not being run over by excavators. So
Yeah, no, it
That's a
sounds like
lot.
you've got a great idea. Yeah, it sounds like
Yeah.
you've got a great idea. You should definitely sign up for an accelerator, if nothing else, just to focus some time on working on the project. You know, a lot of the team have some experience with Three.js and with point clouds. So I'm sure, if nothing else, we'd be able to at least help. You know, it's not.
Okay, it's out there.
Don't- don't-
I sent my proposal already. I sketched out a very messy PDF because, of course, I'm an engineer and I suck at graphics. So I was just trying to understand if it was feasible for somebody junior like me, or you were asking for much more advanced level. That's all.
Yeah, all levels, and we will be reviewing those the applications and sending the confirmations. I think it's 3 weeks or 2 weeks before. So we are almost there. It's just waiting for everyone to apply, and the confirmation should be coming out soon. Yeah, hope to see you there.
Michael, I can approve you now.
Yeah,
If
you're on mute.
if that's it,
You're
if
going to
you-
ruin my vacation. Please
I know.
don't
I
do
don't want
that.
to ruin your vacation, but I can tell the kids are going to hate me now. Up to you. The options there for you if you want it.
I'm kidding. I would really love to be with you guys. I think it's an awesome tool, and I can take some time off from the kids. That's okay. It's healthy for fathers to take time off from the kids. I don't know if you've done the quarantine, lockdown, whatever. If you've done it and you have kids, oh my god.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's really fun.
So just
Thank
to
you, Mark.
contribute a little bit on that topic of beginners, users, and things like that. When I went to the accelerator, it was quite good for me. Not only because there's people there that knows much more about Forge than me, but also they could point me in the right direction, not only for Forge specifically, but for all technologies involving where I was trying to build. So I sat down with quite a few people, and they point me in the right direction for different decisions that I needed to make. So I would say it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or not in a specific platform.
Thanks for the testimonial. Thank you, Thiago. Wow, we are like almost on the hour. Let me finish with a big thank you everyone for joining today, for amazing conversation, and let me also announce the next one. So we will be seeing each other in 2 weeks, same time, same link, August 12th. Hope to see you here as well to keep discussion, have more coffee, have more interesting conversation. And thank you everyone for coming. Yeah, I have the child. And hope to see you in August 12th. And thank you very much. Thank you for the amazing conversation. And thank you, Michael, for joining today. And
Yeah, thanks,
thank you,
Augusto.
everyone. Yeah,
Thanks, everyone. Great to see you.
yeah, great to see you.
Thanks, guys.
Mark, Alex, Alexander, how you doing?
Yes, bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye bye.